If you're based overseas and you want to buy property in the UK, the last thing you want is to rush into a deal, pay too much, miss a tax issue, and then spend the next few years fixing problems that could have been avoided. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the process in the right order. So not just how to find a property, but what you need to sort out first, what checks matter, what paperwork you're going to be asked for, and where overseas buyers usually get caught out as well. This is really for anyone buying UK property whilst living abroad, whether you're buying your first rental, adding to a portfolio, or investing through a limited company. A good purchase starts long before the purchase itself. Most of the expensive mistakes happen in the preparation stage, not after you complete the property. So let's go through it properly. Understand the UK market that you're buying into. You need to understand the local area, tenant demand, price trends, and also what type of property works in that specific location. You also need to understand the difference between freehold and leasehold, because that has a real impact on costs and long-term property value. With the leasehold property, you may have ground rent charges, service charges, management fees, and restrictions that affect what you can do with that property. That matters for your cash flow, but it also matters for resale and rental demand later on. You also want to be careful with new builds and off-plan deals. These are heavily marketed to overseas investors because they look straightforward and they photograph very well too. But that does not make it automatically a good investment. The pricing is often optimistic on these. Sometimes the resale market is a bit weaker than what people expect to. So do your due diligence properly. Look at comparable sold prices, look at rental demand, look at total costs, and don't just rely on someone pitching you a property. The other thing to think about very early on in the whole transaction is EPC, or the Energy Performance Certificate. EPC regulations are tightening now, and whether you're planning to rent the property out or sell it later, the energy performance is becoming more and more important. So as a general rule, aiming for a property with an EPC rating of C or above gives you more protection going forward. If you can't buy a property with an EPC rating of a C or above, make sure that the refurb you're planning on can get you to that marker. This next part is knowing what you're going to be charged. As an overseas buyer, you need to budget properly for stamp duty land tax, because in many cases there is an additional 2% surcharge for non-UK residents on top of the standard rates. So before you get serious about any deal, run the numbers properly using a proper SDLT, or stamp duty land tax calculator, and make sure the purchase still works for you after that tax implication. Then you've got rental income tax to think about if the property is going to be let. And if you're buying through a limited company, you need to understand the corporation tax position, the setup costs, the compliance, and the ongoing accounting requirements and payments you'll need. There may be also capital gains tax implications depending on how you buy and your own tax position. So this is not something to guess your way through. You need to get it right first time. Get the right professional advice early. If you're planning to scale, or you're deciding between buying personally and then buying through a UK limited company, speak to a tax advisor and or an accountant early. You're going to want a UK accountant who understands international tax compliance, and a solicitor who has actually dealt with overseas investors before too. The professionals you choose early on will matter a lot. A cheap advisor who does not understand foreign investor issues can cost you far more than they will potentially save you. Next, you need to get legally and financially ready and get your documents together in advance. Normally that means passport, driving license if you have one, and at least 2 proofs of address. On top of that, you need to show exactly where your funds are coming from. Think payslips, bonus statements, business income, proceeds from property sales, saving records, inheritance documentation, whatever applies to you that you can think of. If your money is coming from multiple accounts, or maybe multiple countries, maybe you've had a complex transaction history, expect a lot more questions and due diligence done on you too. If you start to think that you're being asked far too much, I promise you that is quite normal, but it does slow things down if you are not organised enough at the start. So keep everything clean, keep it traceable, easy to evidence, and you should be fine. The same applies to payments. Avoid informal agreements, avoid cash, use proper traceable banking routes. Opening a UK bank account can also make life a lot easier. especially for rent collection, paying contractors and the general management of the property. On the financial side, if you need a mortgage, understand that foreign nationals are often offered much higher interest rates by UK lenders. You may also be asked for a larger deposit and a stronger proof of income too. So again, do not assume that financing will look the same as it does for a UK resident or a UK borrower. And if you plan to rent the property out, you'll likely need to register with HMRC under the non-resident landlord scheme. If you're using a UK property sourcer or UK buying agent, you need to check them properly as well. We are essentially property personal shoppers, and we will help you purchase investment property here in the UK, and in return we do that for a fee for our services. Property sourcers need to be registered with an ombudsman scheme such as the Property Ombudsman. They should be registered with the ITO for data protection. They should have a valid public liability and professional indemnity insurance, and they should have completed AML training, which is anti-money laundering. That is the baseline. They should also be able to give you a clear deal information pack, including a scope of works, an estimated refurb cost, and recommendations for builders who can actually carry the work out for you too, if you need a refurb. If you're buying from overseas, you need visibility. You need to know what is being done, how much it's likely to cost, and who is going to be responsible for delivering it. Once you've got those pieces in place, the next stage is refurbishment and property preparation. And again, this is an area where people lose money because they stay too casual. If you're appointing a builder, get everything in writing. You want a written scope of works, a formal quote or cost breakdown, an agreement before all the work starts, and then detailed invoices covering labour and materials. This is where people get caught out, especially when they are managing the project from abroad, so get all that in line. You also need to check insurance. At a minimum, the builder should have public liability insurance. If they employ staff, they should also have employers' liability insurance. And if they are giving design advice or technical recommendations, professional indemnity insurance is very important and can matter. Then there's certification and compliance. If the property is being prepared for letting, make sure you've got a valid EICR. If there is gas at the property, make sure there is a valid gas safety certificate. If any installed items come with warranties or guarantees, ask for these documents as well and keep them filed away properly. That admin work might feel boring, but it will protect you long term. My final summary really, and the key takeaways from this should be: a well-prepared investor is much less likely to run into costly surprises. If you make better decisions, you'll reduce delays and then you'll put yourself in a better position long term. To sum it up, if you're buying UK property from overseas, start by understanding the market properly, budget for taxes and costs, get the right legal and tax advice early, prepare your compliance documents, check your finance options very carefully, vet any sources and any builders properly, and make sure the property is compliant before it goes anywhere near a tenant. Work with transparent, qualified professionals, keep everything documented, and do not let the excitement of the purchase blind you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.